So last week, saw the piece on ESPN and all. How much did that take out of you, and how difficult was that to kind of have to go back in the past and relive all that?
It probably hit me most on Saturday when I saw the piece, because they flashed up a couple of pictures, a picture of my mom, and some sentimental pictures. And throughout the course of the week, there was a day where I had to do a little bit of interviewing, which was emotional. But it was stressful on my family as well, because my sister, she didn't get featured as much in the piece as I did, but she spent a lot of time on camera interviewing, talking about a lot of things from the past. The way that I've programmed myself is just to keep looking forward. I acknowledge what happened in the past. I think about my mom often, but I try not to focus on the events. I just keep pressing forward, trying to make sure that I live every day to make her happy. So it got a little bit emotional for me on Saturday morning when I saw the piece. But being around the guys, they got me back locked in, they got me back focused, and that's what I've used my entire life, is the motivation of others around me to push me, to keep me focused. And once I got back in front of the guys, I knew that they were counting on me, that I didn't have time to be emotional, that they were counting on me to be prepared and lead them in the battle.
You're a confident person, and I know you're confident in the guys you coach, but was there a moment in the first half where you're kind of scratching your head going, what's wrong with this offense? Stuff just wasn't happening. There was no rhythm, there was no continuity to it.
Right. There was never a point, because I felt like the calls were there, and we were very, very close. And it was very similar to Boston College in that first half, where we were off a little bit. And just knowing who Deshaun is, and knowing the caliber of guys that we got, McClain's leadership, the way that Jay Guillermo's been playing, so I wasn't really scratching my head, trying to find some things to make it a little bit easier, to see can we get some of that continuity going. But we were moving the ball. We just weren't connecting on some of those critical situations. But just, you got to stick with it. You can't abandon the plan. That's one thing that I've learned throughout my life is when things get bad, you can't go away from what you know. You got to just keep hammering away and just keep calling it. And then getting in there at halftime was big. Just calming the guys down and settling them and letting them know, hey, let's go be who we are. You guys take pride in the fact that we executed at a high level. Just go be who we are. They didn't do a whole lot to stop us. Now, they had some schematic things that they changed up that we had to make some adjustments for, but a lot of it was we missed Leggett on a wide open ball down the middle of the field. We missed Wayne on a flat route where he's going to run for a while. So if we just be who we are, get back in rhythm, connect on the plays, we're going to be just fine.
And the interesting thing to me was when you look at it in terms of just the personality there in the second half of the offense, even though Sean threw a lot of passes, relatively speaking, the impression was that it was pounded out, grinded out kind of thing, because of the way Wayne ran the ball, the way the line opened holes and protected for it. So it was more almost an old school style, because it was taking pieces.
Right. Well, we started out and we had some success running the ball, and then there was a couple of stretches where we tried to go to some of our inside running game, and we didn't have as much success. But our guys take pride in running the football, and we understand that when we run the football, we're in control of the game. We had the issue there at the end of the half where we kind of wanted to get a touchdown there, but ended up with a field goal. But we were right where we needed to be. We weren't panicking. We were going to come out, set the tempo, running the ball, open up the pass. Let's see, can we get control of the game? The defense was playing great at that time, so we were feeding off of them. We just wanted to control the game, take the shots when they were there. Let's see, can we get a rhythm and not force Deshaun into a rhythm, but let's get him back in the flow, run the ball a little bit, let him run the ball, and then let him settle down and make some throws.
Wayne went over 100 yards, I believe, for the 6th time in the last 7 games. Was that the hardest 100 yards he's earned that you've seen?
He had to work for it. He had to work for it. The big run really helped him. But that's Florida State. They're tough. They came to play, and they wanted that game just like we wanted that game. And that's one thing that I'm proud about our guys is like Coach said, it was championship football. That we had to do what it takes, and Wayne had to run the ball, and just was happy that he was able to have that success, because I think he grew up a little bit. If you watch him in the Boston College game, he got frustrated and got away from being who he is. And I just told him, I said, look, you got to be consistent. You got to take the base hit, and the home run will come. And I think that's what he did. He trusted me and took that approach, and he was able to have success. And ultimately, he had the touchdown there at the end. He was able to get 100 yards. But I think he grew up in understanding that, hey, you can't force it. You just got to go play.
There's a certain trophy that comes out of New York City that Deshaun's going to be in the discussion for from now on. Do you think he deserves to be in that discussion, or as a coach, do you say, no, let's just keep his mind here?
You know, in terms of me, I'm not going to discuss that with him, but I believe he's the best quarterback in the country, the best quarterback, one of the best players in the country. So if that warrants that he's in that discussion, then so be it. But I believe in Deshaun. I think he's earned, the opportunity if he's going to be talked about, but I won't bring it up to him. I won't discuss it because our focus is, let's go win games. If we go win games and we're productive on offense, then, however it shakes out, we'll get what we earn.
When you think about the way that first half went for Deshaun and the stakes of that game, was that second half and the way he took over, was that one of the best performances you've seen by him in the second half or any half?
I think so because I've been in situations around here in the past where if we come out and we're struggling on offense, then we don't finish. And so I was proud of his leadership, and I told him in the locker room, I said, dude, you're the best quarterback in the country. I'm going to ride you. We're going to run you a little bit. You're going to find your rhythm. We're going to go win this football game. And he believed that, and he came out and he showed that. And in the first half, there were a couple situations where I think he got hit when we had a miss ID on protection. We shouldn't have got hit, and then he had a couple balls batted, so I thought he was forcing a little bit, especially on the throw to Wayne, because he had a ball batted, so he was trying to get it up and over, and then he just mislegged it down the middle of the field. Just every now and again he'll have a throw where he's not going to make. I think there's a lot of high expectation that he's going to complete every single pass, and he's going to be perfect on every single play. But he's just a sophomore, he's learning, he's growing, but very proud of how he came back in the second half and led his team.
Do you think that first half he was just a little too amped up, just knew all that was on the line, maybe felt a little pressure?
I don't know if that was it. It's hard to speak, but I tell you what, when I looked in his eyes before the game, I've never looked into a player's eyes and saw the focus and the determination that he had. I thought he was ready to go. He was prepared. And again, I think over the course of possibly getting hit that one time when we gave up a sack, and then having a couple balls batted, that he might maybe try to force a couple things, as opposed to being over anxious.
Tony, this has been a big week for this team, and these guys aren't college kids. Is it a point of emphasis at all this week to kind of keep them calm and just kind of get them back into, okay, here's our next opponent mode?
Well, that's the message every week. It's that windshield mentality that we're not looking back, and we know where we want to go, but we understand that our plan to win is what's gotten us to this point, and we can't deviate from that. And then there's some perfect examples out there. You look at the game here last year, it's a lot of the same guys, that we're playing with, they're playing with, and it was a 16-6 ball game. I think it was 9-6 late in the game. So these guys are going to come to play, and then you cut on the film and you watch them early in the game versus LSU at their place. So there's a lot of evidence, and then you just look at Michigan State and Nebraska. You got to come and bring it every single week. So we'll go back to Monday. Today's Monday. Let's go do what we do on Monday. Same thing on Tuesday.
Do you guys at all now, because maybe Clemson's biggest games, most noteworthy games are behind you, perhaps? Is there any kind of thought about style points, things like that, protecting position, protecting playoff position, because of what you have to do?
Not from my perspective. And Coach Sweeney, that's not how Coach Sweeney is. The biggest thing I want to stress to the offense is, we got a desire to be one of the most explosive, one of the best in the country. Let's go chase that. Let's go be that. And also too, you got to look at it. You got to continue to play, good football and execute at a high level if you want to get to where you're going. So you can't take any game off. You can't take any opponent lightly. And now, because we have that bullseye, we're going to get the best shot from everybody that we play.
You mentioned how tough they were defensively last year, Syracuse. What have you seen on film differently as far as personnel and what they've been doing defensively this year?
They've lost a couple guys up front. They're not quite as stout up front as they were last year. They got some experience at linebacker. They played a lot of guys in the secondary. There's been some injuries, so they're not quite as experienced as they were last year, but they play hard. A couple of the D linemen look like they're in better shape. They move a little bit better, especially number 13, their defensive end. He's a lot quicker. They're not quite as aggressive from a blitz standpoint. Now, they're going to bring pressure, but they used to bring a lot of zero pressure and really, really challenge. We haven't seen as much of that, but we're going to prepare for that because we're anticipating going up to their place. In their situation, they're going to take some chances.
Were you surprised a couple of years ago when they played as much press man as they did, especially with Sammy?
Anytime you had Sammy out there, hey, that's what you wanted. You were looking for it. You were trying to get a check play that, hey, we got press coverage on Sammy, let's go over the top. But that's what their style was, and it was consistent with what they were doing against everybody. I think now with the injuries that they've had in the secondary, they can't quite be as aggressive and play as tight a coverage, but they're still going to mix it up. They're going to try and bring guys from different spots, bring some secondary guys, try to confuse you, trying to run your protections hot. So we got a good bit of preparation to put in this week to get prepared.
I know you don't look at what's going on in the game, but what the score
chance to rest guys. Are you going to take that opportunity the next couple of weeks?
You know, I think any time that you can build depth, especially this late in the season, it's going to be critical. I don't know if you take the approach of resting guys. You know, we got to be smart with our practice plan, just overall, because what game is this now? This game 10, going into game 10. You know, we've got an injury on the offensive line with Tyrone, so we're going to have to move some guys around. But I don't think we'll take the approach of resting guys. But if we have an opportunity to get some guys some quality reps, we definitely want to do that.
You've played in dome. You've coached in domes. Was that dome any different when you went up there a couple of years ago? It's a little bit smaller, but anything stand out about it?
It was hot. I remember it was pretty warm. It looked like the fans were close to you. And that was the biggest difference. You know, like go to the Georgia Dome, everything's so big. It's a little bit tighter quarters, a little bit of noise. I hear that the press box is different than what. This will be my first time up in the press box up there, so I heard it's different location and style than what we've had here the last couple of weeks. But you know, it don't matter where we play, who we play. You know, we can play in the parking lot. You know, we got to have the same plan.
You mentioned the offensive line injury. What are your options at this point?
You know, Maverick did a great job, and y'all had a chance to talk with him prior to me getting up here. But you know, he came in, and you know, the first couple plays, you know, that's when we had one of those miscommunications on the offensive line between him and Joe. But then once he got settled in, man, he really played his tail off. And very excited for him and his potential. You still got Norton who's coming back, so you got flexibility with him and Jay that you can put at guard. You still got Taylor Hearns play some tackle, but if we need to, we can move him back inside. You got Falsinelli as another option, so we got some options inside now that Tyrone's going to be out for a little while.
How was Ryan's approach been, just with being back healthy, but losing the job to Jay and just being a reserve?
You know, he's handled it like a champion. You know, I think he wants what everybody wants, and he's still working himself back to where he's prepared to go out and compete. And I think once he's 100% and ready to go, then he'll be just fine. But he's handled like a champ. And I told him, I said, Ryan, we still need your leadership, and that's what's you know, so dynamic about this team is, and you know, perfect example is Rob Byers addressed the team, and you know, a guy that's not playing a whole lot, but really supportive of the young guys. Everybody's pulling in the same direction, so he's handled it well. No issues there.
Do you have any idea what the timetable might be for Tyrone and Ray getting back?
You know, I think it's going to be a week to week. You know, the good thing is it's injuries that they can recover from, and it's really just going to be how their bodies respond. So we don't know. You know, probably this week will be a stretch for those guys, I would imagine, but I'm sure that they'll do everything they need to do. Danny Poole and his staff does an unbelievable job getting our guys back. So it's really going to be how their bodies respond.
What will Ray do to change what you want to do offensively?
You know, I think we got to go with the same plan. Obviously, we'll fill some guys in there. You lose a little bit of depth at that two-man spot behind Tay. You're gonna have to move some guys around. You know, some of the two-back stuff that we had in the plan with him, you know, we may not be able to get to, but otherwise, you know, we'll still stick with the same plan.
Would you like to see someone back up, Tay, or does he just play the whole game?
No. We're gonna have to move some guys around, and because again, you know, 80 reps at that position with the amount of vertical stretch that they do, the amount of speed motion that they do, the tempo that we play at. No, he's gonna have somebody that's gonna have to play behind him. And Coach Scott, you know, is working through it right now to figure out what's the best option with the guys that he has left.
Does anyone work there in fall camp or during the season?
Yeah, you have the ability for G-Hop to go over there and play that position. You know, Sharon's a guy in the past that's played that position, that two-man spot in the past, not so much this year, so you got some flexibility there. You got Travion coming back, which allows you to move Renfro and G-Hop, so you got some flexibility there.
Speaking of Sharon, he's come under some fire. People say maybe he doesn't fight hard enough in games. We've seen the blocking, but on that last touchdown drive, twice on third down, you go to him. What has he shown you the past few weeks?
You know, he's gaining more confidence, you know, week by week. You know, he's just a different kind of player than Mike. You know, Mike isn't, like I told you before, isn't above the rim. You know, Sharon's working on that element of his game, but what you're seeing out of him is he's not afraid to catch the slants. You know, those are critical. You know, everybody focuses on the down the field, you know, low percentage balls that you want to try and make a play on, but those high percentage throws, you got to have those. And he showed that. He came up big on the screens, so he's doing so. So we're trying to figure out what's his best strength and really play to that strength. You know, as opposed to trying to force him something that he's not quite as comfortable doing.
Tony, how are these guys handling not just the attention, but the being number one in the country? Are these guys handling pretty well? I'm just thinking back to when you were in college. If this had been happening, you guys probably would have been jumping out of buildings.
You know, they're handling it well, and that's a credit to our senior leadership and the culture that Coach Sweeney has in place, because there's an expectation to be here. But we've also been, you know, in similar situations where we're having success and we didn't handle the success right. So they're constantly reminded of that. But McLean, just thinking about it on offense, McLean does a great job with the guys up front. You know, the guys in my room, Zach Brooks, you know, may not be having as much success, but man, he's dialed in, he's focused, he's challenging those guys to work. You know, Leggett has been, you know, he's gone from, I used to call him Lazy Leggett when he first got here, to now Leggett the leader, because he's trying to be a leader. And then in that room, you got that client confidence in Sharon. So they're handling it well. They're not satisfied, and they understand that right now is not the time, you know, to look up and pat yourself on the chest. We want to be there, you know, after the championship game on December 6th. That's when it's going to matter where we're ranked.
You've mentioned McLean's leadership a couple times today. What has he done this year to just emerge as a leader of this offense?
Well, first, he's elevated his level of play. You know, you're seeing him play at a high level, and so now he's always been a guy that carried himself well off the field. Everybody respected his, you know, just the way he carries himself, his demeanor, his intelligence, and now he's playing at a high level to where he brings it all full circle, and he's not allowing those guys to settle for being average. By him leading by example, he's able to demand, you know, those guys that are around him to step up to his level.
I've been meaning to ask about Zach, and if you've covered it, I apologize, but I think he has an extra year that he could play, but then he's listed as a senior. Has he decided to skip next season? Will he be back, or is that not?
You know, that's a decision that he made. You know, I think with the way that things have gone in his career, where he's at a point to graduate, you know, kind of where he wants to, what he wants to do in the future. You know, as of right now, he's kind of decided to list himself as a senior. Now that's subject to change. That's a decision upon his part. But right now, I think this is going to be his last year.
Do you have a message for your guys, just kind of about winning the division? Just kind of about, you know, do you have anything that you told your guys following the game about winning the LA?
About when, you know, I told specifically my guys what I like to do on either Friday night or Saturday morning. I like to write them a little note, each one of them a personalized little handwritten note, just some of my thoughts about them. And the message to all 5 of my guys as they got on the bus to come over here, I said, you know, give it everything you have, leave every ounce on the field, don't bring anything in the locker room, and I can't wait to call you a champion. So that was my message to my guys personally. I was just, hey, this is what you've been waiting on, no fear, no regrets, give it everything that you have. But then also too, prior to them reading that note, I told them that, hey, we're already champions. You know, we're already champions, and we just need to go out and just prove it to everybody else the way that they judge us. But we all know that the way that the program's run, the way that these young men conduct themselves, that we're winning and we're champions already.
Tony, I wanted to ask about you and Jeff Scott running this offense. You know, obviously you guys had a plan like Oklahoma and then through the offseason. As the day-to-day unfolded into this season, have you guys kind of changed up a few tweaks, a few wrinkles about how you do things and how you share responsibility?
You know, I think the assignment of responsibility has stayed pretty consistent, but I think we're more efficient, you know, day to day with the operation. Because, you know, one of the things that you learn, you know, sitting in this seat, is I would see why, you know, Chad was up until, you know, 1:30 in the morning putting a plan together, because there's so many different aspects of the plan that you got to cover and make sure you're sound. But we're more efficient. You know, we're not trying to devise new schemes, you know, week in and week out. We're trying to figure out what's working, self-scout ourselves to understand what tendencies we have, and then put the plan based on what we already have available to us in the system, and not try to create a bunch of different schemes.
Anything else for Tony? Good?